Good day, everyone. Welcome to Real Conservative Headline News. I'm your host, Nathaniel Rajkumar, starting off locally here in Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, TTPS, Commissioner Allister Guevarro revealed a $500 million debt to local contractors, comprising $300 million in inherited arrears and $200 million in additional obligations. This financial crisis driven by, isn't it, previous administrative decisions has led to a reliance on credit for operational functions. Consequently, unpaid bills have resulted in service providers grounding patrol vehicles, severely impacting police operations. So when they say they want no car, probably it seems as though at times, now at least, a long time, they really don't. Commissioner Guevarro has submitted a formal report to the Minister of Homeland Security to secure emergency funding for these outstanding obligations. And what they should also do, he said that it appears as though money was spent in ways that it shouldn't have been spent. Mismanagement took place. Individuals need to be held accountable for those actions. Come on, UNC. You're exposing a lot of corruption and incompetence that took place under the PNM administration and other officials, public officials under the PNM administration. We need justice as well, not just exposing it.
The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service owes millions of dollars to several businesses. This information was shared by the Commissioner of Police, Allister Guevarro, during the conversations with the Commissioner of Police event hosted by the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce on Thursday.
The TTPS, as well as the rest of the public service, relies heavily on credit. Okay. And perhaps I am owing maybe 70 or 80% of the persons in this building. Yeah. So in order for us to function, we have to operate on credit. Right. Sadly, I have been left in a position where I am owing about $300 million in debt.
Commissioner Guevarro noted that the situation is being addressed.
Not me, I met that. Right? So I've submitted a report to the Minister of Homeland Security about that. And there's some other debt that I would have met, probably totaling another further 200 million or so. So we're talking about $500 million in debt that we must treat.
Former Energy Minister Stuart Young has warned that decisions surrounding gas allocation, state energy revenues, and cross-border negotiations are placing Trinidad and Tobago's industrial base and long-term energy security at risk, while cautioning that members of the National Gas Company Board could face personal legal consequences. My response: PNM patriots and politicians are definitely natural comedians, you know. It's beyond comical that the same individuals who caused our economy and energy industry to collapse are now showing concern and are even offering to provide solutions to TNT's continued economic woes. Because the mess PNM left us in, the United National Congress is going to take a long time to clean up. 5 years isn't even sufficient, you know, people. Sadly, Trinidadians, because they are not getting everything they wanted out of the UNC, may end up going and putting back PNM in office to destroy the nation all over again. And it has been happening. That has been the way. That has been part of our history. It happened in the 90s. Pandey started to restore prosperity in Trinidad and Tobago. They voted him out. Kamala began to restore once again, fixed all PNM's mess. They voted her out. I don't understand Trinidadians, and I never will. But that's because of tribalism. The common denominator goes back to tribalism. And besides tribalism, just basically tradition, loyalty to the PNM, because it was supposedly the first political party founded here in Trinidad and Tobago. But it was founded upon tribal values and deception, manipulation. I don't understand how people could continue holding on to those types of values and tradition. But anyhow, getting back to what I said online, I said it's beyond comical that the same individuals who caused our economy and energy industry to collapse are now showing concern and are even offering to provide solutions to TNT's continued economic woes. Rest assured that if PNM had won the general election last year, TNT would have most likely ended up facing sanctions by the Trump administration, but they want to be talking now. They are so much concerned about this and about that. All the so-called plans that PNM had to revive the energy industry, nearly 10 years to be proposed. People wasn't in office for just 5 years, like I said, with the UNC, people. 10 years they had. We ended up in a complete mess. And people will say, oh, it's because of the pandemic. Not because of that. If an Ali administration endured the same pandemic and they are thriving, they are prospering, many other nations as well. Says that about the pandemic. Stop blaming that. Blaming it on the pandemic. It's total utter nonsense. Definitely what was done during that time, that era, is to be blamed as well, because Rowley decided to lock down our nation for about 2 years, destroying our small businesses. A lot of those businesses never recovered. But anyhow, back to my response, I said, all the so-called plans that PNM had to revive the energy industry took nearly 10 years to propose. So just imagine how many more years it would have taken to implement them. They came up with these plans in the past, 2 years or so. It would have probably taken them another 20 years to implement them. In other words, it would have never been really implemented. Little things just to give the base a feeling of satisfaction, and then the rest of monies would have just continued to disappear. Just like $500 billion cannot be accounted for. There are some good projects in them. I mean, I like to be fair. San Grande New Hospital is really wonderful. Really wonderful. That's one. How many more can you really count, putting aside the bus sheds and standpipes and the $1 million rope in Tobago? But anyhow, and the peace. Oh yeah, the peace sign. I think it was Diego Martin. I went on to say, yes, patriots, UNC adopted some of PNM's plans, but they ensured that significant changes or alterations were made first to ensure that it became effective and beneficial to our citizens and nation. You know, that's what all the repeating in public these days. But a lot of the policies being implemented now by UNC is were plans under the PNM. Yes, but number one, it's being implemented one time, almost immediately. And besides that, all significant alterations were made to those plans to ensure that it didn't end up causing more harm to our economy and country. It's benefiting instead. Minus, of course, the increased fees and fines, which is a PNM type of policy. I will never agree with that. I will never agree with the government's decision to impose those double fees and fines and also the landlord tax. A workshop aimed at addressing the impacts of underwater noise in marine ecosystems is currently being held by the University of Trinidad and Tobago. The introduction of the underwater radiated noise toolkit was launched on Thursday morning at the UTT's Shagaramas campus. According to UTT President Professor Rian Maharaj, Trinidad and Tobago is leading the way in addressing the impacts of underwater noise in marine ecosystems. Most likely it's affecting a lot of the marine wildlife. Lieutenant Alfred said, this is a concern, and on a national level, the focus has been expanded beyond underwater radiated noise to consider noise impact above the water line, because you know, Trinidadians like to hear extremely loud music. Boom, boom, boom. Poor animals probably don't want to do. In particular, he explained, noise is generated by party boats, as I just said, loud music, and similar recreational activities which can affect coastal communities, marine users, and overall safety and enjoyment of maritime. You're supposed to you need to do things in moderation, people. Trinidadians don't like to hear that. They like to speed. They like to play music extremely loud.
Trinidad and Tobago is leading the way in addressing the impacts of underwater noise in marine ecosystems. That's according to President of the University of Trinidad and Tobago, Professor Rian Maharaj. He spoke at the launch of the introduction of the Underwater Radiated Noise Toolkit, a workshop being held at the UTT campus in Shagaramas.
Trinidad and Tobago's designation as the lead pilot country, and notably the only one in the Caribbean, is both a recognition of our capability as a country and a responsibility we must take very seriously.
Mr. Maharaj explains that the underwater radiated noise toolkit plays a significant role in the effort.
It is a mechanism designed not only to process parameters associated with underwater noise, but also to enable the mapping of underwater acoustic hotspots.
Director of Maritime Services in the Ministry of Works and Transport, Lieutenant Commander Ronald Alfred, said, while we continue to benefit from the maritime sector, it is important to address the visible and invisible environmental impacts.
One such impact is underwater noise. While often overlooked, underwater radiated noise from ships has been increasingly recognized as a significant stressor on marine life. It can disrupt communication, navigation, feeding, and breeding patterns of marine species, particularly marine mammals.
Lieutenant Alfred said this is a concern, and on a national level, the focus has now been expanded beyond underwater radiated noise to consider noise impact above the waterline. In particular, he explained noise generated by party boats and similar recreational activities which can affect coastal communities, maritime users, and the overall safety and enjoyment of maritime spaces. Nicole Duki, TTT News.
Trinidad and Tobago weather report for Friday, April 17th. Conditions generally dull, cloudy, and hazy. While the morning may see more sunshine, conditions will likely become overcast with a chance for isolated showers throughout the day. Temperatures, daytime highs will reach approximately 31 degrees Celsius in Trinidad and 30 degrees Celsius in Tobago. Overnight lows are expected to settle around 23 degrees Celsius to 24 degrees Celsius. Hazards: a moderate concentration of Saharan dust is in the atmosphere. Sensitive individuals should take necessary precautions, such as wearing face masks when outdoors. Marine, moderate sea conditions are expected with waves between 2.0 meters to 2.5 meters in open waters and near 1.0 meters in sheltered areas. Sunrise, 5:51 a.m. Sunset, 6:14 p.m.
Regional news now. Prime Minister Dr. Godwin Friday participated in a high-level Caribbean leaders open dialogue hosted at the World Bank under the theme From Policy to Paychecks Dialogue. At the meeting, Prime Minister Friday highlighted his government's position and approach to improving the lives of citizens in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. He stated that his administration is also focusing on private sector partnerships, underscoring their critical role in driving economic growth. Dr. Friday also shared St. Vincent and the Grenadines' high debt burden. I wonder who caused that debt by, which his government is seeking to reduce. From administration, I don't know. He said this is directly affecting the population, hence the urgent need to address it.
What we need is for us all to sort of come together and say, well, what are the things that we can manage better? That is to give the assurance that investors will be able to have a reliable and predictable legal, juridical framework in which to operate. That if you invest in a particular enterprise, you don't necessarily have to have the blessings of any particular minister. And you don't have to be friends of any particular minister. What you need to do is to have a good plan, you follow predictable rules, and the state will respond accordingly to ensure that you can benefit from that investment. When we campaigned in the elections 4 months ago, it wasn't told just to the business people, it was the ordinary folk who were finding things very difficult. Difficult things that are, we should have been, by now, be able to take for granted. Putting food on the table, paying for medical bills, basic medical bills I'm talking about. Blood pressure pills and stuff for diabetes and so forth. Chronic illnesses in our country. So these are some of the challenges that we have to meet. So at the same time, we don't want to say to the people in the private sector, listen, we are going to tax you more because we have to meet these social needs. We have to find a way in which to address them without putting pressure or excess pressure on those entities that generate the funds in the first place.
A new update to the government's cash grant system is set to impact thousands of Guyanese, a senior minister within the office of the president with responsibility for finance, Ashni Singh, announced that the new Building Society NBS has officially integrated into the online cash grant portal. The announcement made via social media confirmed that persons who hold accounts with NBS can now use their banking information to complete the registration process for the government's ongoing cash grant initiative, making it even easier to complete the process. This move is expected to simplify access for many citizens who previously faced limitations when attempting to register through the system. The Mining and Quarrying Association of Jamaica has advised the national construction sector that rising energy, logistical, and recovery costs will cause inevitable price increases for essential materials like sand and limestone. Poor people does end up having to suffer. This necessary adjustment is driven by economic pressures and severe weather damage, forcing developers to recalibrate project budgets due to industry contraction. Further, this situation highlights the ongoing challenges facing local quarry operation. But they themselves, yeah, they will lose profit, but tell us the poor man wouldn't be able to afford to build a home or construct whether it's a business or whatsoever. Barbados has signed a US $80 million agreement with the Inter-American Development Bank to upgrade its water system. Telling you wonderful news coming out of Barbados, you know. Targeting aging mains and significant losses, where up to 50% of water is lost before reaching homes. The 5-year program is expected to improve supply for more than 150,000 people and strengthen reliability for households and businesses. I wonder, do you all have any sort of desalination plans in Barbados? You should consider doing that, Prime Minister Mia Mottley. Exhilarated. Bahamas Prime Minister Philip Davis says he feels exhilarated after being officially nominated once again for the Cat Island, Rumkey, and San Salvador constituency for the Progressive Liberal Party. But anyhow, I don't know about the politics in Bahamas just yet, so I can't really give much of an opinion. He is eyeing his second term as Prime Minister, so this is only his second term. And he said, if he wins, and said he is proud of the work his administration has done, adding that his team brings a strong mix of youth and experience focused on continuing national progress. So, of course, for anyone out there from the Bahamas viewing my video, that's by chance, comment and let me know what you think is what do you rate the performance of the current administration, and do you think that they deserve to be given a second term in office?
I'm exhilarated by the fact that I'm taking another step and to be amongst a unique group of persons who would next be elected to Parliament. I'm very grateful to my people of Cat Island, Rumkey, and San Salvador. Cat Island is a place that shaped me and made me who I am today, and I'm so thrilled to be able to nominate here in Cat Island to again continue the work that we have been doing together. Across these islands, our candidates have nominated. We are united in spirit and purpose, and we appreciate the fact that to govern a country, one has to be a united force. We are united. Our team is experienced. We have young candidates as well. So we have a mix of experience and neophytes who will bring with them the energy and vision of the youth to mix with our experience that we already have. Nothing other than ensuring that we build upon the progress that we have already built, that we've already laid the foundation on.
International news now. RFK Jr. defended Dodge staffing reductions, saying former HHS staff presided over the biggest decline in health in the history of the world. He said, you now have the sickest generation in history. We have the sickest population on the face of the earth. That is a failure of the government. The Democrats, of course, he's talking about, and probably former Republican administrations to an extent, but definitely the Biden administration, biggest failure, even when it pertains to the Democrats.
They presided over the biggest decline in health in the history of the world. We now have the sickest generation in history. We have the sickest population on the face of the earth. That is a failure of government. They weren't looking at chronic disease. They were focused on other things, and they did nothing to prevent the food dyes, the bad food, all the things that are making us sick. It was their job to protect us, and they did not do it. They failed at their job, and if this was private industry, they would have all been fired.
According to reports in international media and official statements in recent days, April 2026, Israel is playing a central and integral role in the naval blockade imposed by the United States on Iran. I knew that was going to happen, and that is wonderful news, putting pressure on the Ayatollah terrorist regime. The blockade, which officially began on April 13, 2026, is intended to cripple Iran's economy following the large-scale military operation Roaring Lion, or also called Operation Epic Fury. Roaring Lion, of course, was the name used by Israel. Operation Epic Fury, I believe, is the United States of America. They did a great job. People like Lindsey Graham and myself and many others wished that they completed the job, facing these pressures on economic pressures on the Ayatollah extremists. Not really going to stop them. They will pretend as though they're going to give in. They'll pretend as though they will agree with certain conditions, and then in the future they're going to violate those conditions yet again. And then maybe by then Trump administration may be out of office. We don't know if the Republicans will win in 2028. Hopefully they will. But even if they do, we don't know what will be the decisions that will be made by the next Republican president. So now should have been the time to finish the job. Now for the interesting facts segment. In Tarrant, 47-year-old mother Helen Johnson faced a desperate moment while trying to buy eggs after grandchildren went 2 days without food. Caught shoplifting when she was just 50 cents short, she feared arrest. Instead, Officer William Stacy chose compassion, buying her a carton of eggs and asking that she never steal again. So, of course, he wasn't encouraging. The officer didn't encourage the individual to continue with that type of lifestyle, but showed mercy. A bystander's video went viral, sparking nationwide support. Donations poured in, and the local police delivered truckloads of groceries, turning a moment of hardship into a powerful story of kindness and community. Yes, people, the act was wrong, but when people looked into the circumstances and understood that this woman was really genuinely struggling, not because she had a habit. You don't have some people that have a habit of shoplifting and stuff like that. In this case, no. It was an act of desperation. People came out and showed compassion for this woman.
Welcome to Real Conservative. Headline News Travel Adventures. Perched high on the edge of the Serra de Leba escarpment, the Tundavla Gap stands as one of the most breathtaking natural landmarks in Angola. Located just 18 kilometers from the city of Lubango, this massive abyss marks the point where the central plateau abruptly ends, plunging over 1,000 meters into the coastal plains below. Standing at the rim, visitors are greeted by a vast horizon that stretches toward the Atlantic Ocean, often providing the sensation of standing above a sea of clouds. The landscape is defined by towering cliffs and jagged rock formations that create a natural window into the heart of Hula Province. Because of its sheer scale and beauty, it is recognized as one of the 7 natural wonders of Angola. Beyond its visual impact, the site holds deep cultural significance as a protected heritage landscape, representing both the rugged spirit of the region and a place of quiet reflection for the local community. For travelers, the Tundavla Gap offers an accessible but awe-inspiring adventure. The cool mountain air and the dramatic play of light during sunset make it a premier destination for photography and hiking. Whether watching the mist roll through the canyon or looking out over the sprawling greenery far below, a visit to the Gap provides a powerful sense of the majesty and grandeur found within the African continent. Hope you enjoyed today's video, and we'll see you again tomorrow as our journey around the world continues.
Folks, that brings us to the end of today's headline news. Thanks again to everyone who continues to support my content. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay blessed and stay safe most of all. In Jesus' name.